Flyvault.net presents Where the River Bends, a fly fishing short story. And now, Where the River Bends, the bay, as it was called, was soon to take the name Small Hope Bay Lodge, a sort of reclaiming of a name that had previously been used in the 1600s by Captain Henry Morgan. Morgan's name and pirate likeness would later grace the bottles of Captain Morgan's spiced rum, and was said to have used the name Small Hope Bay, a name that originated in the mind of the pirate, as Morgan believed the chances of anyone discovering the booty he had hidden on that island were slim to none. I'm sure Dick thought the history of the infamous pirates of the Caribbean would add to the allure of potential guests. In the late 50s, Dick Birch ventured to the Bahamas with a vision to establish a scuba diving resort near the Andros Barrier Reef. The reef was the third largest living organism on the planet, and while seated on the steps of the aging Calabash Bay School, fate intervened. Mr. W. Edgecombe happened to come across Dick Birch sitting on those steps and pointed him towards the residence of a Mr. George Minnis. It was there that Birch would discover the ideal parcel of land he had been seeking and purchase the land from Mr. Minnis. In the 1960s, Small Hope Bay Lodge was honored to host a visit from Bahamas Prime Minister Lyndon Pindling and Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. Pindling knew of a young local chef that worked at the Lighthouse Club and was as talented on the grill as he was with a fly rod. Being a guide was a job he'd been training for under the tutelage of his father since the age of 7, and his bubbly personality was a hit with all of the club's guests. Pindling asked Birch to make arrangements for the young man to cook, play some music, and guide the duo on the flats. With high expectations of landing some fish, the young man accepted the request of the Prime Minister, and with the pressure on, he stayed up until the wee hours of the morning, working on a fly pattern that he felt confident would work, and used it on the outing the following day. The trip was a huge success, and the ministers gave him the nickname of Life, probably due to his bubbly personality spilling over and adding that special spark that helped make the day. Over the next decade, Life made a name for himself. He was being requested from the who's who of the leaders of not just countries, but of every industry worldwide. Everyone from George Bush Sr. to the president of the Aluminum Foil Company, members of the Rat Pack, and famous athletes like Ted Williams all wanted to fish off the boat deck that Life was piloting. One day, Bob Nauheim and Frank Bertagna from Fishing International arrived on the boat deck of the famed Fishing Guide. They were casting some deceiver patterns, and frustrated the fish would only nip and fin the flies. That's when Life spoke up. "I have this fly in my pocket that's nasty. Do you want to try it?" Bob eagerly accepted the invitation, and within seconds of the fly hitting the water, the cry came out, "Fish on!" After landing the fish, Bob passed the rod to Frank, who also was yelling, "Fish on!" only moments later. Bob took his rod back and was so eager to catch another fish. He had not taken notice of where Frank was positioned on the boat deck, resulting in a cast that had come between them, and Frank receiving a complimentary hook in the arse. They got the hook out of Frank's butt, and Bob got the word out to the world about this fly called the Nasty. In the interview some years later, Life mentioned that the foundation for the fly he tied came from his father and used duck feathers. However, Life's dressing used a couple of chicken feathers and a pair of bead chain eyes that he had taken off his old dog tags from back in his early days when he worked at the US missile base located on the island. The pattern was a real winner and was about to take the world of bone fishing to the next level. In the late 70s, the pattern was introduced to some higher-ups at Orvis, and from there became a must-have fly if you wanted to fish the flats anywhere in the world. There is some conjecture about how the fly's name came to be and the specifics of the original dressing. However, Nasty didn't sit well with the editors who were going to publish it. A letter was drafted and sent to Life, asking if they would mind swapping Nasty with Crazy. Permission was granted, and by the early 80s, anglers weren't tying the Nasty anymore. They were tying the Crazy Charlie. The guide who navigated the waters where the pirates once roamed, played his music and cooked for his guests on and around Andros Island for the majority of his life was Charlie Smith, the most sought-after bone-fishing guide in all of the Bahamas. And now you've heard a long-lost story from a tier's bench, and one you can share with your friends when you meet them where the river bends. I was out for a ride on the four-wheeler with my daughter when we passed Old Man Russett's potato farm. We witnessed your subscribe button out in the field, dragging a jackhammer. After a minute, he got it upright and must have pulled the trigger. It kicked like a mule and punched him in the nose. Not exactly the best way to get mashed potatoes. Take care, my friends, and as always, happy tying.